and I think we are losing
Focus.
to non-professionals because we are not collaborating enough. The market is very big, and we can still collaborate and grow together instead of seeing ourselves as
competitors.
I mean,
can actually be collaborators.
Yes, and if we collaborate, there's more data. There's
Absolutely.
for us to make the right decisions.
More opportunity.
More opportunities,
Yeah.
and then.
Hello and welcome to another episode. Again, we're here to talk about everything that relates to how it is that you make your property investment work for you. Now, there's a common perception that rental properties don't make money. It's true. Some people have not made money from their rental properties. But the question that I ask people like that is, what were you thinking when you bought the property? Did you see that the property was going to be able to make money? Could you identify ways in which you were going to put that property to work for rent that you could see or be able to determine that, oh yes, this property will actually make money for me? Today we're going to be talking to somebody who is, as far as I'm concerned, one of the more active players with communal living, which is a new trend that people are also starting to grow into. Now, it's not so much of a common thing, but when you look deeper beyond, when you look at, oh, somebody says they stay here, this person says they stay here, and you look at how it is that they actually got where they're staying, you'd actually start to understand the fact that communal living, community living, co-living is actually a thing and it works. So I'm not going to explain. I'm going to let him do a lot of the talking of how he makes it work, how he has helped his clients to make it work, and his experiences in the industry. So welcome, Kunle. I know he looks very gentle, but you see, when he gets to his work, you'd be wondering, is it the same guy? I mean, but that's a good thing. So hi, Kunle, how are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. And I'm actually very gentle. I'm a very gentle man.
Yeah, okay. Very
But
gentle, but you're coping and you're thriving in this whole real estate quagmire. Like, I tell people, I say, it takes strong people to be able to stay sane in this industry. So I don't see how necessarily gentle people can cope, but we'll take that.
I think I have two different personalities.
You see, now the truth is coming through. Okay. Yeah, so that's fine. So just please, I mean, tell people, what it is that you're doing. I mean, I know you, I know your company, I know your business, but, just give an introduction to what it is that you do, how it is that you've been doing it, and what people tend to look for when they come to you.
Okay. Thank you again for having me.
No problem.
So at Liveable, and I've been doing Liveable for quite some months, or years. Liveable, we're focused on providing what we call living solutions for ambitious people, and usually young people, somewhere between 21 to about 40 years old. And what that means is that we provide them housing, so we take care of the housing rental process from the point where they're looking for apartments to, of course, viewing, and then when they move in. But then post-moving, we provide facilities like gas, power, etc. And ambitious people generally are spending more time, investing in their careers or investing in their finance or investing in relationships. And they don't want to have to deal with simple things like, my generator is off or water is not running. And so we provide this solution end to end, from when you start looking for apartments to when you've moved in and post moving. That's what Liveable does for our customers today.
I actually like I like how you've classified the people that you serve, because that is, I mean, I wouldn't have thought about that. And it's very true. That group of people, they don't want to have to deal with these things. They are, I'm too tired dealing with life. I'm too tired dealing with everything that's hitting me. Why do I have to come home and still have to do that? And if we look at that perspective, it's actually why a lot of people go for serviced apartments.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, they don't want to have to pay that full exorbitant cost of service apartments because they can't afford those costs. So every time I see your posts or your offers or your options go up, I'm like, your offers are actually quite interesting. If I had options like that when I was maybe new in Lagos, almost like 10 plus years ago, I mean, actually more than 10 years, wow. Okay, I would have actually loved to stay in those type of communities. Why? Because you're first taking away the stress for them. You're also reducing all these frictions that come and they happen, and where people are saying, oh, I don't want this type of, or this tribe, or I don't want this person, I don't want a single woman, because I suffered that a bit when I first started. And for me to overcome it, I had to find a solution. But then if people are able to work with, companies like yours, they don't necessarily have to go through that, because there's no landlord per se that is necessarily seeing exactly who's moving in. You control and you vet that entire process. So it's like you making all of that work easy. So coming to that, I actually want us to talk a bit about that whole vetting process. I like to call it the vetting process. How do you actually get people in? Because again, this population group of people generally are misunderstood. People see them and they think, oh no, they're problematic, they're this, they're that, they're young, they will what. So how do you work through the vetting process that people then get? These people are able to get properties from you. And your properties are quite decent, I must say. So how do you work through the vetting process?
Where do I start from? We've sort of learned over the last couple of 18 months, 2 years, and made changes along the way. But the general thing with vetting is you want to know where this person works, what their income is like. Sometimes you get data about past behavior from apartments where they've lived in the past, and then you want to make sure, which is I think the trickiest part, you want to make sure that community living is for them, and not everybody should live in this kind of apartments where you're living with sometimes 30 people and above. And we're figuring out how to deal with this, but I think we just test for personality and fit, for this kind of apartments. And it's usually conversations. And by the way, all of this we've built into a solution now that anybody else can use, where you can actually vet tenants that fit into this kind of apartments. But it's been a process for us to learn. I have to say though, that ambitious people are also one of the toughest people to serve. They want what they want. They want what they want, and sometimes they expect even more. And so when you are connecting them to apartments, the other angle side of it is also managing the landlords' expectations, and also getting landlords to understand the commitments that you've made to these people, because we don't own the apartments. And I have to say there's some cases where we have spent monies just to get our customers to be comfortable, even though we've not gotten always the best, in some cases, few cases, cooperation from some landlords. And that leads me to the point about what we've learned now is we want to do more partnerships with people who are building purpose built for community living. And there are some advantages of doing that, where it's very clear from day one that this is what we're trying to do, and there's a minimum standard that these people want to expect or experience when they're living in these apartments.
So I think logically that makes sense for you to actually partner with people who have purpose-built properties, because again the dynamics are different. On one of our previous episodes where we talked about property maintenance and all of that, the person was very serious about the fact that the purpose for every property would always have an impact on how it's used, how you're able to keep it, and when you're then having to modify and switch between use cases, it poses a problem. So I can almost understand, very vividly what kind of pains you go through when you have to work with properties that are not purpose-built. I dare say that right now we don't have purpose-built buildings per se for that, unless you mean new developers who are then working around these lines. So when you now say that you want to partner with developers who are doing this, so does this mean that you would, from the time that the property is being built, want to start, building these partnerships, or would it be that you would actually approach the possible developer to say, okay, this is a need? Because right now, I mean, the narrative is that housing is needed, but a lot of people are also saying, I don't want to have to buy housing in a place that people don't want to live. So we now have to start finding a balance. If we're going to use data, which should help to make it smarter, it means that we would know people that want to live in a certain area, and then we would look for opportunities in those areas for them. So from what you're saying, how is it that you want to be able to evolve this? I mean, because again, for you, it has to make sense money-wise.
Yeah.
And because it has to make sense for the owners of the property. Yeah. So, I mean, what is your current perception? What would you say were the things that you would look out for strategy wise, to be able to help make this work?
So at Liveable right now, we are in the last 2 months, we've been working on something we call a community living report. First time I mentioned that, and that's out in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
And it will provide insights,
Right.
to potential investors or developers about locations where we believe this can work, about how this works,
Okay.
and basically also even information about yields for this kind of apartments.
Great.
Generally, I mean, just to give some insight, generally our experience is there are better yields when there are multiple units in one location.
True.
For the landlord, economies of scale, but even for us as managers,
Yeah.
it makes more there's more return on investment for the work
Absolutely.
that we do. So there's all this information is going to be out publicly next month.
Okay.
But that's what we think we can do. We
Right.
think we can contribute to the body of knowledge in the
Yeah.
public and educate people about
What's working?
what's working, and also what's not working.
Yeah.
And so people can now make decisions based on
Based
that,
on
and
that.
particularly people who are looking to invest
Mm-hmm.
for commercial reasons.
Yeah. Oh, that's very interesting, because it now means that we can start to look forward to having more data that defines where it is that
Correct.
people can and should be putting their money in for whatever reasons that may be. Smart. Thank you. I'm going to be hounding you for that. Let me just give you advance notice. I'll keep hounding every week. I'll send you a nice reminder. Please, I hope it's not out yet. I want first dibs and all of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
you
I mean,
get
because
that.
data is one thing that we've suffered. I mean, we've suffered from not having data put out there. A lot of the information that is out there is about it revolves around people's experiences, what people have seen, people have witnessed, people have gone through. It's not documented. And when people then to talk about it, myself included, I mean, people then say, where's the proof? And then you're like, this is what we've seen. This is what has happened to us. But it's not documented anywhere.
Yeah.
One person can't necessarily document, but then the more that we document our experiences, our findings, we would just generally help the market be better.
Yeah.
I mean, it just makes sense.
Yeah, just something to add here, just for the whole real estate ecosystem. We will not do more of this if there's no collaboration. So we will document, for example, our experience, but we need to maybe start to look at this kind of reports, not from individual organizations, but from partnerships.
Collectives. So people who are
collectives
doing similar.
coming together and coming, because I think that there's a lot of competition
Yeah.
in our industry.
Yeah.
And I think we are losing
Focus.
to non-professionals because we are not collaborating enough. The market is very big,
Yeah.
and we can still collaborate and grow together instead of seeing ourselves as
Competitors.
competitors. I mean,
can
it's-
actually be collaborators.
yes, and if we collaborate, there's more data. There's
Absolutely.
for us to make the right decisions.
More opportunity.
More opportunities,
Yeah.
and as you see with real estate space in Nigeria, unfortunately, today, I don't know about the building space, but in property management space or facility management space, maybe about 10% is controlled by professionals.
Yeah.
It's mostly.
I think that 10% is being.
Is B, yeah,
Is you being
and that's
very
because we've not
nice.
we've not realized that the market is big and we don't have to compete for just a small market. It's bigger. We can still collaborate and grow.
Absolutely.
And grow together.
I totally agree. And every time I tell people about the Domino Society, which I know I've mentioned to you a couple of times, they're like, this thing, you're going to be looking for partners. And I'm like, yes. Because the only way it will work is when we collaborate. I can't do it all. I can find investors and tell investors this is going to work because of XYZ. But the bulk of the data that I'm going to be using to give these assumptions and, reports are going to be based on what's actually happening in the market. People like you who are dealing firsthand with rental issues. You are hearing from people who want to rent, in larger numbers than I can even imagine. I'm talking more on the side of people who want to invest, people who want to be able to own properties that they can put to work. But people like you are every day in the market and in the trenches, let me say, with people who are saying, I am looking for a place to live. So until your data is put in with my data, we're not going to be able to make the smarter decisions. So when I tell clients and I say, you have to invest smarter, it's only by making these type of collaborations. So that's part of why I say I'm going to hound you for this report, because we think the market has not changed enough, but the market has changed. Like even just how people are investing or how people are looking for homes. I think from COVID was when we started to have very rapid changes. COVID first showed us that most of us owned homes that we treated like hotels. When we go on conferences, we go out to work, we just come home to sleep, eat, bath. The next morning, we're out on the street again. Now we are all having to live double lives in our homes because we want to work, we want to live, we want to play in our homes. And that has also seen a change in how people look for housing or what type of housing people look for. I mean, you're dealing with a very migrant population consistently. So you have people who are 21 years old, 22, 23. They're not looking for a 3-bedroom flat that is all flashily what? No, they're looking for a cute studio 1-bedroom that can have the amenities that the 3-bedroom has. But those data will never come out until you and I talk consistently. And what you're finding, I mean, just like you said in the last 2 months, this data you've been putting together. I mean, so let's just come back and say, okay, now that you've seen this, what kind of rental systems is it that you've now started to see as working? Nigeria, we're used to the whole pay rent 2 years, pay 1 year. People are kicking against 2 years, fine. But then is a whole pay for 1 year and stuff like that. But we're also having, like I've seen people who say, no, I'd rather pay a quarter and then I stay there because I'm this. What are things that you have started to see that are working? I mean, not necessarily the things that happen one-off and stuff like that, but things that consistently work, that also help landlords to be able to make more money. I mean, we all know that short-let business is going hanky-panky. But I mean, so what are other ways that it is? Because people want options.
Yeah, I mean, they are very popular ones today, shortlets, Airbnbs, all of those things. I think that those are very dependent on infrastructure. For example, if you're doing an Airbnb in Lagos, you want to have 24 hours power. Yeah. And with the recent increase in prices of fuel or diesel, that's something that you have to look at the numbers very deeply. But I'll talk more about the long-term rental space, which is where we've spent a lot of time learning and actively doing. And I'll speak first from the landlord's point of view.
Yes.
Everybody wants to pay rent monthly.
Okay.
People want to pay rent quarterly. They just want flexible rent. And yes, you can make more money as a landlord over a period of time if you're more flexible with, because you can potentially charge a little extra. Yeah. Because of that flexibility. But it also comes with risk. People move out a lot. Yeah. And so you have weeks or days where there's nobody in the apartment, and so your numbers have to be really good to make sure that you at least make a lot more than you'll have made if you were renting on a long period. There's the monthly rent thing out in the industry today, and while you can partner with corporate, so if you're a landlord, you can partner with banks and these monthly rent payment companies to get people to pay rent monthly, and there are people that will pay. So we have a couple of customers. I'll say 20% of our customers pay rent monthly. Of course, in collaboration with these monthly rent partners. I don't know, and I'll be very honest, I'm not sure how quickly that will grow. I think there's just a small market that helps. People that have jobs, regular jobs, can use that. The challenge with that is what we've seen is a trend where people start with monthly rent and a certain percentage move
into fixed rent
because the interest rates are quite high in Nigeria. And I mean, just my experience talking to investors in this space, that's a major concern for them. I'm talking about now investors in prop tech companies like ours. Because the interests are quite high. And somebody has to pay for
all of that.
But what I would say is, if I was a landlord and I was going to, first of all, I have to make a decision why I'm building. Am I building for investment, so for property for my children, or to get income when I'm retired? If I'm very clear about that, because there's a difference between building for yourself and building for rent. And just by the way, if you're building for yourself, I think it's important to consider the fact that you might, in a couple of years, move and think about what that property might need to become after you move out. And if you think about that from when you're building, then you know that you can easily convert it to
a new thing,
to an apartment for rental, because they are two different things. So that's the first thing I'll think about. Second thing I'll spend a lot of time on is think about the location where I'm building, particularly if I'm building for investment or if I'm planning to convert in the future for rentals. Think about location, because the cost is maybe the land, difference in cost is land, but other things are maybe almost the same thing. So I'll think about that a lot. Final thing I'll think about post building is what tenant am I getting into the apartment, and my advice is to work with professionals. The industry is filled with a lot of non-professionals, and what I always say to our landlords is you should partner with somebody who has something to lose. I think it's a general business business advice that everybody should have, and landlords should see their properties as business, and not get too emotional. It's fine to get emotional if you're planning to live in there, but if it's an investment, please see it as a business. And what that means is the same way you will not take 50 million naira and give it to these guys on the streets. I mean, we call them alajo in Yoruba, but like they are sort of traditional savings guys that go and collect 50 naira from people, 100 naira from people. The same when you take 15 million naira to these people, do not take a property worth 100 million naira and hand it over to a non-professional. Because what happens is there's no incentive for them to give you excellent service. What they're usually looking for is getting anybody that's willing to pay the first rent, and then they're out. They've received their commissions, and it just becomes, what happens is that it just leads to a cycle of loss. People start to delay rent. They start to default rent. They start to damage your apartment, and say you make a decision to let them go in 5, 6, 7 years. We've seen multiple cases, because we do this also. We've seen multiple cases where we've had to give landlords loans to renovate the apartments, and they're spending 2 times the annual rent to fix it. Of course, if you're working with professionals that are also innovating, by the way, the way they will plan things like caution fees will be very different. The caution fee system in Nigeria today is, example, you move into this apartment, it's a studio apartment, it's 1 million naira in Lekki phase 1. For example, you pay 100,000 naira. That's 10% of the rent as caution fees. This person lives in the apartment for 5 years, for example. Then he lives in year 5, so he lives in 2028. In 2028, you find out that the cabinets are bad, the doors are bad, there's something wrong with WC, you need to fix some tiles, and then you have 100,000 naira from
first year
2003. I mean, if we're looking to the future and with all this inflation, maybe that'll just buy you one door. Then, and so it's important that when you're choosing professionals, also consider the ones that are constantly innovating, because the old caution fee system
is not working.
Is unfair and doesn't protect landlords.
Yeah.
So at Liveable, for example, we don't use that system, because that doesn't protect our landlords, and we don't think it's fair that they invest in these properties
and then
they regret it in a couple of years.
Makes sense. I mean, it makes sense because if we're looking at the general messaging and saying that we're helping landlords to make money from their properties, we have to actually protect them,
yes.
as well as serve
the
people that we are.
Absolutely, you have to balance that.
You have to balance that out.
And it's really that something I've seen a lot in this part of the world is short-term thinking, where you are rushing. You want to fill your apartments in 2 days or in 2 weeks because I need the money. I've invested a lot in this property. I need money now. I think what landlords might be missing when they do that is there are two kinds of income. First of all, there is rental income and there's capital gains. Rental income obviously is the one you get, and once you rush that process of getting tenants, you get the first year, but then you start to have problems. What is maybe even worse, in my opinion, is that when you start to have problems and you decide, okay, I'm tired of doing this, and you want to sell the property, you are most likely selling it below market value. Because it's damaged, it's not been well maintained, and at that point you don't want to invest any money in it, and then
so you want to sell it as is, and then the person is looking at it and is like, I'm gonna spend this amount of money, I'm not gonna pay you full value.
So
you end up being on losing.
So you have to be very smart. I mean, one of the things we want to do, by the way, and maybe something we talk about is, and I just left today was a meeting with a company where we're applying to do like some trainings. Nice. But we want to design just one of the courses. One design is landlord finance.
Ooh, okay.
Because the accounting and the finance around owning the property,
it's very different.
It's very different, and people have not looked into it. I'll give you, if you don't mind, I'll give you a simple example.
Sure.
We rent the property today to a tenant. Tenant pays you rent, then changes his mind and says, "Oh, something came up. I need to move," and he has not moved in. Right. What happens in the industry today is your property manager or your agent tells you, landlord, this person doesn't want to move in anymore. The general response from the landlord is, "Oh, that's fine. I've already spent the money."
Exactly.
Getting a new tenant and give the person the full rent. What usually happens is this: it might take some 2 months to refund to get a new tenant. So when that money is refunded back to the new tenant, the landlord doesn't loses 2 months of rent because he never gets back that 2 months.
No,
never. Number one. Number two is the property manager or the agent actually makes double income.
Oh yeah, because he has rented it that first time.
Because they get agency and legal fees the first time, they don't refund that. They get the second time. Now, if you're a landlord and you don't know these things, for example, you're just losing money every year.
And somebody else is
and the person you're partnering with has nothing to lose.
Nothing. Absolutely.
Right.
Nothing.
So, one of the things that we need to do in the industry also is educate people as you're doing before they invest, but also post investment. What do you need to know? If a property manager brings a deal to you and says, for example, person has to move, what are you telling him in response? Are you just saying, "Oh yes, when you get a new tenant, pay it off"? Even if it takes some time, it takes 3-4 months. You've lost 4 months, and if you do that over and over again, you just keep
losing money.
And the guy that you're partnering with, that is supposed to be a partner, has nothing to lose.
Nothing, because he's just making his agency. He found you a place. You had one not taken.
Exactly.
So it just keeps going.
There are many examples like this.
That
we've seen, and we're designing like something that is a landlord finance course, just so that you can go on YouTube and just watch. These are the things to watch out for that maybe you will not know as a layman.
Oh, great. I mean, yeah, definitely. Let's talk about that.
Yeah,
I mean, we
should.
can always do that.
We
Yeah.
should.
I mean, and this instance that you just explained, it also happens with people when they are buying property. So I've had an instance where clients have tried to buy a property, and then for some reason they can't continue. Again, maybe they bought off plan or for whatever, so they now can't continue, and then they want to discontinue that, right? And whatever, so I have a principle of saying that, okay, I found your property but you're not taking it, that's fine. You haven't moved in, that's fine. The issues have been that you couldn't continue with it, that's fine. If I'm gonna find somebody else to take that property, it means that I will refund to you whatever agency fees I had, except there were particular costs that I had actually incurred on your behalf, which you would know when I'm incurring, right? So I would refund your money, your agency, back to you, right? And then when we're refunding you the cost of the property, if the developer is saying, oh, but we've also incurred certain costs and all of that, it would be to layer on a new buyer on for you. But all of these are things that you, as the first buyer, has to accept before I put into play for you. Now, if you don't accept it, it means that you're going to allow the developer to repay you whatever it is that they can repay you, in whatever time. So yes, you as that first buyer, you as the landlord, depending on what the transaction is, would be the one in the losing seat, because there's just those small little pieces.
Details.
And these are things that I think that in the industry in general, we need to start looking at, and we say, okay, who's making money here? Because just like what you said, some agents are the ones literally making all the money. In different instances, I've had discussions with people and I've said, who are you making money for? Is it yourself, the developer, or the agent?
Or the agent.
You have to know.
Yeah.
So I like the fact that you want to do this course, and I'll be really excited to get
we actually
into
already
it.
started the process. That's meeting I went to before coming here, and I think it's just like as it is across different industries in this part of the world, and particularly the services industry. We have to start thinking about doing things with knowledge, not with common sense.
Yeah.
It's always shocking to me when people invest hundreds of millions in property and they manage it with common sense. Like, why do you want to manage
do you want to do that with common
hundreds
sense,
of millions
right?
with common sense? No,
True.
you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't.
Okay. I'm sure if we continue on this path, we'll just keep talking. So right now, let's say you were talking to an investor who is saying, I either have property or I am about to invest in property that is going to be put on the market. What are two things that you would say to that investor? Again, the properties are investments. So what are two things that you would leave that investor with?
I think you have to be clear on who you want to serve, and what kind of returns you want to get.
Right.
Two major things. So, if I want to serve the elite and claim on serve the elite, Eco Atlantic, for example, is where I would build.
Yeah.
I'm sure I get my income in USD. Particularly, this is actually important for people who are taking USD or Forex and coming to invest in Nigeria. My advice generally is make sure as much as possible that you can get your income in
the same
dollars.
currency.
Very important. And that means you're building in places like Eco Atlantic where you can charge in USD. Now, this is not always the case, but that's my general advice. And then when you decide that, then you now say what location. So the location is important.
Yeah.
And then please work with a professional. Don't. And I know we have relationships with brothers and uncles and all of that, and they're fine and they're good to guide. But if you're not professionals, you're not professionals. And my advice is
keep business. Keep
it's
relationship.
It's business, and you should keep it as business. Yeah, that's what I advise. Your income also will come because you're not rushing to get just any kind of tenant. So work with professionals to get right kind of tenants in. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I think it does.
That's the advice.
I think so. If I were an investor, I would really like to be able to hear that.
Oh, one more thing I think I should add.
Sure.
Actually, this is very important. demography of our part of the world is changing. I think, if I'm right, and just don't quote me, about just over 50% of our population in Africa is below 25, 26.
I agree. That's what starts.
And what that means is that there's a lot more demand for example, studios, 2 bedrooms, and maybe a bit more community living, where people can share costs. Of course, like, I mean, a good example now is it's cheaper for 30 people to share the cost of a diesel gen and diesel than each of them to have small gens. I better pass my gen.
Exactly. You get more value.
You get more value, you can put on ACs, but it's actually even cheaper right now because the cost of
fuel, the cost of diesel, the cost of everything is just what it is.
So you need to think about that. But demography is changing, the demands are changing. True. And so I'm concerned when I see a lot of empty big buildings. I don't want to go into whether they're terraces, but there's so many empty big buildings. Somebody has told you, if you build this in this place, the rent is going to be high.
Yes.
What I've seen is a lot of landlords now struggling to resell those buildings because they're not getting the value that they expect.
Nobody wants to rent.
Nobody wants to rent in those apartments, right? So, very important if you're building today in Nigeria. Who are you building for? What's the future of that demography? If they are 25 today or 22 today, what are the things they're interested in? Are they planning to have 20 kids or just 2 kids?
Exactly.
Very different from maybe 20, 30 years ago, or even very different from 10 years ago.
Absolutely. I mean, you've hit. I mean, so as I said, if I were the investor, I would love to hear this advice. I just really hope that people who are listening, who are not in the industry, who have not seen the things that we're talking about, would also be able to appreciate it. Because it may also just be that because I'm in the industry, I'm appreciating what you're saying. But demography has changed. People who are building and buying into big apartments, I keep telling them, I say, who are you investing for?
And I'll tell you for free, we have so many landlords who end up paying us money to now remodel.
Oh yeah, especially on the mainland. And then you see these unprofessional remodels that's you're like,
problem. I've seen massive buildings in the last 1 year that I've never seen before, and I'm just like, why did you build this big? And he's now saying, oh, my kids are moving abroad. I'm like, yes, they were going to move anyways. So, but so now we shouldn't make the same mistakes.
Yes.
We should plan ahead.
Absolutely. So when you see parents who are saying, oh, I want to be able to give my kids the property and all of that, which kids? Are they going to go back to there, or are your kids going to move on?
For 2 reasons, actually. One reason is if they're making so much money in dollars and euros, they don't care.
Don't come
but
back.
The second reason is because you are most likely working with an unprofessional and it's very messy and there are no reports they can. These younger people are very smart and they want things to be organized. If you're transferring something to them that is not organized, they don't want to get involved.
It's too messy for them.
So if you're working with a professional, you better work with a professional who's organized. Their reports. I'll suggest potentially, using software to manage those things.
True.
And can show you reports that you can easily transfer and just maybe add your kids to it, so they don't just get shocked like, oh, I'm handling property.
Exactly.
They are already in process for a couple of years,
so they see it, they see what is going on,
and then they're more interested.
Actually,
but if you just wake up today and say I'm transferring property to you, and then they ask for history, income, and then if there's nothing to show them,
problems.
Just be like, oh no, I don't want problems.
Oh, well, yes. So, Kunle, I really, really appreciate all your time. I appreciate all the insight that you've shared today. And I hope that we can bring you back to come and have more discussions, or maybe even a panel discussion. We can bring more people in and we'll all share different ends of the equation into what it is. Thank you.
I'm very happy to.
The report, I'm going to come.
That's fine.
I'll definitely take it so we can add it in for people who watch this episode. And for those of you who are watching this episode, I mean, he talked about the demographics that are changing. Also, the poverty ratio has changed. And because of how that is impacting on how much money it is that people have, what people are able to rent or buy, is also changing. So if you know that you're going to go into that, I'm going to look for that report and I'm going to plug it into this episode so that you can get it as a download, can watch it, watch this episode, read the report, and you can definitely know how to make smarter decisions. Thank you for watching up till this point in time. Kunle, please, if people want to be able to reach out to you or even just see what work it is that you're doing, I know that we'll plug it in, but just share where it is that they can find you so that they can know.
Oh yeah, that's fine. At Liveable NG. Liveable is spelled Liveable NG.
Nice.
Liveable NG. My personal Twitter handle is Kunle KUNLE _ Jinadu. Jinadu is JINADU.
Awesome.
And I'm a K at liveable.ng. If you want to send me an email, K,
Yes.
letter K at liveable LIVEABLE.ng.
Right. Awesome. So there you have it, guys. You can contact Kunle, ask your questions, but most importantly, if you have any part of this episode that has either come at you or you can resonate with, please drop it in the comments down below. Ask a question so that we know what it is that you want to know more about. I'll do my best to ensure that if you ask specific questions that Kunle can actually answer, and we'll put them in here so that we can all learn together. Thank you very much for once again tuning in. Till next time with another video. Adios.